Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the season review of Manchester United on the Red Devils Roundup on the Balls Out podcast. We're going to do a little quick dive into what our highs and our lows are over the season, what our ambitions are for next year, and just have a good old chat because joined. Been a little while, Kai, but it's great to see you. How you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, good. How's it going?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Really good to have you on board as usual. And let's very quickly touch on Sunday's game in particular. So obviously we did a preview of the match. Well, we did a review of the Europa League, and we talked about the Villa game itself. And me and Jonathan both said that we didn't anticipate anything from it. We were pretty much done with it, and I think we both predicted 3 or 4 nil wins for Villa because they had everything to play for. So what did you make of the game, in your humble opinion?
Well, well, look, I think it was a weird one, right?
Mm,
Because you expect that Villa would come into it uh, pretty much and press us, right? All guns blazing, that sort of a thing. But it seems like Unai Emery decided to do something else, right? He always does something experimental here and there, and he actually decided to sit off us.
mm,
Um, because, well, look, I think there's a few ways of playing against United. Another way is also to sit off and then hit us on the counter. So that is something probably that he was looking at that he could exploit. Um, but I do think that he got it wrong in the sense that probably his team was now caught in between the two things. So
mm,
do we just defend and go for a draw? What are the other results? What's happening at the other ground? So I think there was a lot going on in that game, and I don't think Unai Emery really helped them because why would you decide to sit off this United side? Having said that, you still have to do something in the game, and you still have to take advantage of the situation. So I think United really did well in in terms of pinning them back. Right,
mm.
this is probably the first time that we've seen United pin a team back for majority of the game for a long time. And like I say, I don't know whether that's because we're allowed to, or that's because of our own, you know, our own game. That's something that we can always we can always argue about. But yeah, so weird game to call. I just think there was too many variables that happened before that for us to really take too much out of this. But the one thing that we can say is that we still created a whole lot of chances that nobody finished off. And yeah, that's it looks to be, for example, with the Cunha signing, the first thing that they're trying to sort of fix is can we get some goals? With the frequency that Garnacho shoots, for example, if a Cunha has to shoot that often, he'll probably score maybe, you know, more goals, like
Yeah.
like he's proved. So I think that's probably the one thing that they're thinking to say, well, if we can have someone like Garnacho who has a lot of chances and he wastes a lot of chances, and we don't want him anymore, who can we get that is perfect to basically get those chances and finish those chances. So yeah, that's my general overall feeling of the game. I just think also one underrated thing is we needed to win, because if we didn't win, the post-match speech and everything else would have felt a bit different. So this is actually one of the things, right? The fact that we played well, we won the game, so it allowed us to have a more chilled conversations over the next few days. Um, Less Amorim out conversations every so often, less everyone is terrible. And then, of course, Garnacho's comments, he took the pressure right off the entire situation by
Yeah.
making it about himself. So now we've been discussing a lot of Garnacho. Um, so So I appreciate that the team managed to go out and get a win at Old Trafford and allowed the speech to happen properly without, allowed the goodbyes to happen. I mean, we even got a free penalty for Ericsson to hit over.
Yeah,
So I do think that everything, sort of came together to kind of try and give United fans a little bit of hope, something. Um, but yeah, I think, to be honest, everyone knows what they have to do at the club. We don't really know what that is, but it seems like they're all sort of in the same, banding in the same direction, kind of a thing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The whole Garnacho saga is a complete farce. To think that he tweeted out or whatever it was, Instagram, just and then his brother getting on the bandwagon, it's just pathetic. So the less we see of him from now on, in my opinion, the better. Obviously, he's now flown out on the start of the pre-season tour, which is actually the post-season tour, but whatever.
Hmm.
So they're out in Guadalupe. They're playing a game Wednesday night or early hours Wednesday. Yeah, whatever. But I would imagine that the Europa League final will be that's the last time we'll see Garnacho. Now he's pretty much out. Obviously, like you say, we got a penalty later on in the game, and obviously Bruno handed the ball to Ericsson, which is really good. Sort of as a parting gift, because there's no disputing that. Ericsson's been a really decent servant to the club without he's never done anything really wrong, and he's never set the world alight. He has some really good moments, some really good games. So fair play, give him the penalty sort of as a parting gift. Another player that's leaving, Johnny Evans, again, even in his first spell at the club, really good servant. Second spell, can't really say anything negative about him. I think even he as a player knows that his legs are going. He's not got probably many years left at playing such a high level, and you can't dispute that. He's been brilliant. And there's a few more that look like they're out of the door as well. But Malgub, I hope I'm saying that right. He brings up a really good point, or she brings up a really good point. Yeah, I think we should sign a goalkeeper or just make Bayern Deer the main goalkeeper. Now, me and Jonathan had real interesting thoughts on that. We both said that we should get two new goalkeepers because, with all due respect, Bayern Deer decent, but hasn't really put his name among the spotlight as if to say, yeah, I want to be number one. He hasn't really made that second spot his own in that respect. And Onana is just way too much of a liability. He always makes us nervous playing out from the back. The goal that we conceded in the Europa League final was poor for a goalkeeper of his stature to be able to save. Yeah, really, really poor. So yeah, it looks likely that we might have to go down the route of getting two new keepers. Are you on that same sort of boat, or
Yes. Look, we need a new keeper. We need two new keepers, like you just said. Um, it cannot be that you have the same level of heartburn for both of your keepers. It cannot be that, like, simply I mean, ideally, right, in a normal football team, the number two is able to come in for 5 games max, and it shouldn't look like anything happened. It
yeah,
shouldn't be that, because that goalkeeper is so. I mean, what is he doing the entire time except basically training his fundamentals? That's
yeah,
pretty much what he's doing the entire time. He's with the number one and they're training fundamentals. I get the lack of game time, I get it, but actually, um, if you've got two good keepers, they almost balance each other out in that the only difference that you see with the number one is that little special
yeah,
thing that they have about them, right? The number two is standard. You can put him. He'll make it at any mid-table club as a number one, sort of like a Henderson, type of a thing. No problems, especially for 5 games. Once you start doing more than that, then you're now asking for a little bit more pressure. And everyone's asking, is the number one coming back? And then now you're having other conversations. But for those few games that he might get, he needs to be solid. Bayern makes us panic. I think we all feel the panic that comes into our systems, when especially when the ball's coming to his feet, and the one thing which I'm not a fan of is you could see Bayendir when he started. Um, he wanted to play with his feet a little bit and do what the whole what the whole team is doing. And then somewhere along the line, he made a few mistakes. And then he changed his game completely. Now he sort of kind of just hoofs the ball as well. So basically, he is playing not like himself as a keeper, and every time he comes in, it's a pressure situation. So yeah, and then I think Onana, the biggest thing for me is if you don't have certain fundamentals of a keeper, there's certain things you always struggle with, especially in the Premier League,
Mm.
because teams are so good at targeting. They love to target things. They love to sort of zone in on a specific weakness and they'll say, all right, this is basically what we'll do. And then they'll just keep on cutting you apart the entire
Yeah.
time, especially if your personnel is an
It's
issue
sort
and
of
you
like
can't change.
the old school sort of, oh, this keeper's not confident, shoot on sight. Like we'll just,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. And I promise you, the fact that a lot of goals go in without actually flying in, like they're not like it's not like top bins. It's not like it's arrowing into the bottom corner. A
mm,
lot of goals against Onana are basically just rolling in.
yeah,
Like a lot of the times I'm like, I'm not a guy who says I want David De Gea back, right? But I know for sure he's saving like 60% of some of that stuff Onana's not saving. But
yeah,
that's just simple instinct, timing, moving your feet, like even the Europa League final goal. I know David De Gea is saving that
yeah,
because he would have already started moving. He's not going into his goal. Onana's going into his goal half the time. So I, I don't even think this is a confidence thing. I think what happened is we weren't supposed to see these weaknesses because he was supposed to be so good at the other area of the game that we were supposed to
yeah,
almost not see this, almost like an Edison, right? We're not supposed to see the weaknesses. We're just supposed to see these strengths because the team is built around that. But the moment we started saying, "Oh, Onana, listen, you're just gonna have to be a normal keeper, bro," bash that thing up front, right? All of a sudden, everyone's saying, "Oh, Onana, why are you bashing everything up front? What happened to your feet?" Right? And then all of a sudden, it's like he gets chipped from the halfway line in preseason. I am never ever getting out of my box, guys.
yeah,
I'm never going anywhere ever. Again, for Inter, he was constantly coming to the edge of his box, outside the box, building, right? But you haven't seen any of that at
yeah,
United since that preseason. Gone, finished. You saw him, remonstrating with Maguire at the beginning, trying to be this big leader, the guy that speaks a big game. All of that completely down the drain, doesn't exist anymore,
mm,
and a lot. And now he's almost in a box of we're judging him as a normal keeper now, but he was supposed to be something else. He was supposed to be one of
yeah,
those, jack of like a what is it, like a ace up your sleeve type of a
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
like
yeah,
but now we're looking at him and saying, oh, this is a nonsense keeper,
mm,
because actually the fundamentals aren't what probably made him great. Like that's not why he made it in the academy and this and this. I think the idea that you have this keeper who is just on average with everything, but super good at like the modern thing that a lot of keepers can't do.
yeah,
That's what then propelled him. So that's really my thoughts on Onana. That I think what United need now is stability, but you're not getting stability with someone who is not so fundamentally focused at that, or who is not off that cloth. That's
yeah,
why I say I want my keepers to be 7 foot tall, white dude, Viking looking, beard just like yours, Nathan. That beard right there, bald. I don't want any. I just want like 4 tattoos is fine. But I just basically I need him to get to the top corner and I need him to get to the bottom corner and I need him to get every corner and I need him to basically push people clearly. I need to hear him giving instructions clearly. It's not the time to have keepers which aren't vocal now, So
mm,
I think if we just have a steady keeper who doesn't concede nonsense goals, you cut out a lot of weird moments in a game whereby you're leading and then something stupid happens, or you have control, something stupid happens. At a big club, you only need to be focused for those 4 moments in a game. If you're not focused, the game changes completely, because you're playing against a defensive team normally. So we need a new keeper, or else we're going to continue to see these type of errors, I think. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, and I don't know if we're gonna go for a new keeper, but please, 7 foot tall Viking, beard like Nathan, drinks beer. That's it.
Just no nonsense. You just want someone, just a keeper that's good at saving.
Exactly.
That's all we
Exactly.
want. And then you
Exactly.
can work on their, like exactly like you just said. The reason we signed Onana was because his distribution and playing out from the back was exceptional. But when it comes to, like you say, the fundamentals of being a goalkeeper, he just hasn't got. And the poor sort of record when it comes to these little p roller shots that just roll past him. It's just not. It's not what we need. Prize Fighter Exile evening, mate. He's come in and just said Brian and Bramo. That looks pretty much like it's full steam ahead on that one as well. So Mateus Cunha sort of agreed a 5-year deal yesterday in Brainamo in serious talks with about a
Yeah.
£50 million move. Also on the back of that, it looks like Garnacho is going to be funding the Embuemo move. So if we can
Mm.
sell Garnacho for 30 to 40, that pretty much stops up the money for Embuemo. So that's a little caveat on that. But
You
yeah,
see those? That's another man, like just a man. Like he
mm.
looks man.
and
Like
just
imagine.
he's good at the one job he's given is
Yeah,
set up and score goals. The same as
yeah,
Cunha. That's his
yeah,
fundamental job.
yeah.
That's what we need you for. So none of this.
Exactly.
We need you to do everything else. We just want you to be in the right place
Yeah,
at the right time.
exactly. And he's a 90 minutes player, so he's got
Mm.
enough gas in his tank to last aggressively for 90 minutes. Do
Yeah.
you need a goal? Can you find second wind? I think sometimes you can see Hoyland, Ahmad, too lightweight in some moments where the game is fading. You need to be dangerous all the time. Teams to be like, oh, Mbuemo's here. So I think left foot, accurate shooting, great timing in the box. Yeah,
Yeah, he
ticks the
scored for
right
Brent.
boxes
Yeah,
for
he
me.
scored for Brentford as well again yesterday. So
20 league goals.
yeah,
20 league goals is crazy.
I mean, you add that to our squad. Not saying he's going to get it because our service into the box, but with Cunha coming in, Brian and Bramo, and you're hoping. I mean, it looks like it's going to be Delap. I think the jury's a little bit out. Like there's a bit of a mixture between fans about Liam
Mm.
Delap. He's a good player. Whether he's going to come in and save what we're looking for up front. But yeah, let's go back. So the season in general, has there really been any? Is there any matches that stick out in your mind where you thought that's the United that we remember? That's the United that we've played the right way and won. Like, was there any like good games that stick out in your mind? There's got to be
You're
one.
kill- you're killing me, Nate.
I know.
There's- Let me just say, no, no, because it. I tell you why, because I can't. The only game which I remember United actually playing well uh, and winning, I think it was a Tottenham game. Not last season, but maybe the season before, under Ten Hag, and we were on them for the full game,
Brilliant.
and we were, and I thought to myself, yes, yes, this is United. So no, because for me, when I feel united is when I can, for example, watch a game that Liverpool's playing or a game that Arsenal's playing and not feel a difference when I watch United playing. And
Mm,
I constantly feel a difference with the pace of the game, with the completion of the passes, with the amount of times good things happen in the game. Like a lot of people put these comps on X, but look at how far apart the good moments are. It's way too far apart. And then you see when those good moments are close together, look at what stage the game is at and what is going on in the game. Either we're losing or the other team is winning by so far. So then again, I say to myself, there's too many gaps in times. The first 15 minutes sometimes great, and then up until the 60th minute, you are just under the most crazy pressure because the other team's already figured you out tactically and physically. So I don't think there's a game for a very long time. Probably the last time was one of the Ole wins, which were like 5-0 or something, where I thought, oh yeah, we just went there and we just killed everyone. And I didn't feel like, that feeling of we're not even going to lose. Even if we concede, we're like, nah, we'll be back. And that
Yeah,
was that was around lockdown. Lockdown time was just
peak,
crazy. It was
absolute peak.
peak. It was just like,
9-0 against Southampton, and
yeah, it was like, yeah, you score against us, we're coming. Don't worry,
Bruno in his pomp, Cavani scoring.
exactly. Cavani, I think Greenwood was there, and who was this other guy? So everything was going. So I do think that there is not one game this season that I think this was bad. But what this was good. But I can say there were so many games which I kept on saying this is worse than before. This is this is worse than before.
What about in the
you know,
Europa League? Was there any games in the Europa League? My immediate game I went to was the away at Bilbao, the first leg against Bilbao, where
yeah,
we
yeah,
weren't expected to go there and win. We were all sort of saying if we can get out with a draw or a 1-0 defeat, we'll be happy. And we ended up beating
yeah,
them 3-0 on the night.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah. I tell you what, that was a good performance. Um, I It was a good performance, but then again, I don't know why I still felt like we should have done more in that game for some reason. I was still left over there. I think it's just because I still knew that we could mess it up monumentally, anyways. But I think, yeah, it was. I think it was a good game. I'm not a pessimist, but I'm just more like
really.
real. I'm just a realist because, we watch a lot of games, other games, and like the feeling, you just watch a Champions League game and you're just like, wow, how far are we? Like, what are we seriously looking at what we do every week and even trying to tactically dissect, or even
Mm,
sometimes I'm like, nah, this is not even worth it. I think I tapped out probably eighth game of the season with trying to look at things tactically because I was like, no, it, our players, put them in a three, put them in a four, they're still making the same errors. It's the same thing that you see. This is not, you can't change this until you don't have this, you know. So yeah, it's I just never feel, I just haven't felt a long time like we have done something. But you know what? The Bilbao game was good, and also I'll take the Leon type of moments because as
yeah,
a fan, I mean, you have to have those moments, right? Like even if it was 4-2 against 10 men at some stage, but you have to take the cinema. That's what you live for. The guys in the stadium, you know,
limbs.
they'll tell limbs, they'll tell the story exactly how it was, because I think it even makes it better, right?
Yeah,
Just the fact that even if you tell people it was 4-2 with 10 men down and they scored like this, the fact that it still happened in that way, that's actually something that we live for,
yeah.
a little bit of jeopardy in there, so, and that's the United way as well, right? So you take it, but yeah, yeah.
So final finishing position was it? I think it was 14th.
15th, I think 15th.
15th, yeah. 15th
Yeah.
on goal difference. Minus 10 goal difference. 11 wins, 9 draws, 18 defeats. Finished on magic 42 points. Finished above Wolves, Spurs, and obviously the bottom three. Um, I mean, the Premier League season has been horrendous. There is really, like we've already said, there's no positives at all from any games really. I suppose you can. We beat obviously City at the Etihad. That was probably a good result in one of Ruben's first games. Obviously, we drew away at Anfield. But apart from that, really, there is. I mean, we didn't lose to Arsenal. I think in the first game, I don't think we lost to Arsenal. Can't remember what happened in the second game. Either way, it's not a memorable season at all in the Premier League. League Cup, again, not really very memorable. I think we went out to. There you go. See, not memorable. Can't even remember. FA Cup again. We went out to Fulham. Was it Fulham? No, League Cup was Tottenham. Lost to Tottenham 4-3. I remember that now. League Cup. I think we lost to FA Cup. I think we lost to Fulham on penalties. And then obviously Premier League season was atrocious. Obviously the big signing light that kept us all sort of semi-interested throughout the season was going unbeaten up until the final in the Europa League. Malgub's got a question. Do you think we should keep Mount? I personally think we should. I mean, he's had a really difficult season or few seasons, obviously with injury. I think that he's sort of, if he can stay fit and we get like the player that we've had in the last few games, he'll be a solid. But if we got an offer for 20 to 30, we'll probably bite his hand off for it. Kai, what do you reckon?
Oh, I'm gonna sound so bad again. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh, Mason Mount, my boy, Mason Mount. Um, you see, you're speaking to a lifelong Mason Mount hater. Um, since he was in Chelsea. Well, look, let me just say this. I'm not a hater, but I'll say this. So, if you make the team nice and you make the team good, right, then you can get away with having Mason Mount in that team because the things he provides work when the team works well. The things he those same things he provides when the team isn't working well, then he's going to be completely anonymous. So you're only gonna see him in some little moments, but most of it is gonna be a cardio session because he's gonna be running everywhere, right? Trying to get the ball, trying to press over here. But if the team is not doing the same thing, right, then he's not gonna get enough touches to be valuable enough in a game.
Yeah,
And I think that's the thing with him, the fact that he's one of those players which I call nondescript. So it's like they're there. Like they just it's you don't know what they're doing, but it's nice to have him there.
yeah,
It's you just gotta have him around. I think he's like uh, uh, the central attacking midfielders of Darren Fletcher's of this world. Like one of those guys. And I just feel like I think we can keep him because I mean we spent so much, and I think he's fitter now. And like I said, if you make the team nice, then you can get away with having Mason Mount in there. But if you have a fractured team, then it really affects pretty much 60%, 70% of his game, I believe, because he's not gonna constantly beat a man. Uh, he might take it on the half turn once or twice, but he's not getting beyond too many people anymore. Unless, for example, against Villa, he did it a few times out wide. Um, he's not running in behind as well. So, and he's not picking it up from deep either. So then you then say to yourself, all right, what are you offering? You're offering a lot of energy. You're offering a few link ups, a few connections here and there. Um, and then you have to say to yourself, is this enough for the type of team we want to build? Is this enough? If you put him in there, are you getting enough output for the
yeah,
type of thing that you're looking for? So yeah, I think even though I'm a biggest hater, I do see a bit of his value. But I do think that from what I've seen, he needs a team to be in a better place to because he understands football. He has good football IQ.
Mm.
He does pick up good positions. He does have a decent touch, but he's just an anonymous type of player. He's not supposed to
Yeah,
be in the big time. He's not supposed to be the guy that everyone's focused on. No, he's supposed to be the guy that people call a unsung hero, like he was at Chelsea. That's what he's supposed to be. But
yeah.
when you start looking at him the entire game, then you'll be annoyed because you'll almost be like, but what are you actually doing? But you have to almost look at him in the context of things. Who closed the ball down just before Bruno was able to receive to make the pass? Those types of things, you have to take it into context. So that's why I feel like, yeah, he's wasted if he's your guy. But if he's a guy, then you have a very good person, to fill in as well.
You've got such a way with words, Kai. You really do. Beautifully said.
Oh, oh no.
No, really, honestly, you, sort of just described how I always felt about Martial when he played. If he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
your guy, you're struggling. If he was
yeah,
a guy,
yeah,
you're doing all right. But
yeah.
yeah, it's just
Exactly.
so. Obviously, we've got nothing to really cheer about in the Premier League. Nothing, obviously, in the League Cup, FA Cup. Obviously, beat Arsenal in the FA Cup. That was just good in the sense that we stopped Arsenal winning another trophy.
Mm.
Europa League, obviously, a disaster in the final. Played really well up until the final, but just did you watch the final? It was just horrendous, just poor.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, man, we could have won that final anyways.
If we
Like,
just upped our notch by like an inch, we could have taken that by the scruff of the neck and won 3 or 4 nil.
I'm telling you, and I just feel like I know we're giving Ange a bit of credit for sitting back,
Ugh.
but I promise you, if we don't concede that stupid goal, I'm thinking to myself, uh, do we manage to get something in that game? Because then Tottenham would just keep on dropping further and further, and I think their game plan was to do exactly that. Um, but like you said, I don't think we did enough, to affect the game like that. But then again, the half chances, we just don't score half chances enough. Those random snapshots or just, something across the box, something off someone's backside. And sometimes you need that in a final. You really just need the Harry Maguire touch. You just
Yeah,
need something in that final, to also get the crowd going. But I just feel like, to be honest, I feel like it was meant to happen. We had to lose that game for things to make sense for us as a club, because we could have easily been still celebrating the Europa League right now, but
mm,
shamelessly. Like, Nathan, like shamelessly. Like
yeah,
we would have been a different level of shameless. And the way that, for example, Alan Shearer was talking about Spurs, like, it doesn't matter. They lost 22 games in the league. And I'm like, 22 games. I had to go and check it again because I was like,
yeah,
22 games. Is that not worse than like Wigan relegation back in the day or some, and then you think to yourself, okay, fine. So I get it, first trophy in a while. But if Ange survives losing 22 games and winning off that kind of goal that they scored in the final, like that kind of goal, like
mm,
then I can see exactly how we would have viewed it. There would have been way too many fans which were, forget about the manager, forget about the players. It's a redemption time. There would have been redemption posts. But I'm like, this is actually better because you're now weeding out everything. I needed that Garnacho reaction so that Amorim is just like, all right, seriously,
yeah,
we've tried. None of this. I needed the board to be like, we still need we need these guys, instead of them saying, oh, but do we actually, maybe no. Now they know exactly what they need, and I think now the plan is without any frills, 1 day a week next season. We just have to bite the bullet. We also don't deserve that amount of pain like we do, like we deserve the season. Like, like give us a break. Like once a week is fine, and then we'll talk about it during the week like this, and fill those gaps up. But yeah, so you know, I think it was a blessing in disguise at the end of the day. I think
Yeah.
because I get the money aspect, right, but let's just be fair to ourselves. We're just not ready for the Champions League. I get the money aspect, but there definitely should have been a continued contingency plan
Mm.
for what happens when you lose the final, because it's a final, it's a knockout game, anything can happen. So I just think we didn't need any lies. We didn't need any fake cheers. We didn't need, Amarim to hide behind anything. I think it's also good, young manager. He feels the heat.
Yeah.
He can stand in front of it and get in front of it as well. So, um, I think it just helps so that nobody rests on their laurels a little bit. I know it was, to be honest, it was the least painful final defeat though. Like, because I don't have Tottenham fans, which are my friends in the Netherlands. Hardly anyone's a Tottenham fan. On social media, they just mostly sound like they're shouting. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like seeing a Tottenham fan walking into work with his Tottenham kit, you're like, "Alright, cool, nice," uh, but I don't feel like I lost a final. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
If it was anyone else, if it was an Arsenal or this, I would have felt like, "Oh my god, this is terrible." But I'm just like, yeah, it's another game. It is what it is. But I think there's no hiding place for the entire club. It's a disaster, and it must be a disaster. It must be an unmitigated disaster. I think for people to really, also so that you know, we can we can really measure now the progress that they will make this summer, instead of having this trophy that is underneath them as well. That is, so yeah, I think fairs fairs. You don't get. There's no way you can get rewarded for finishing that low, playing like that, and then winning a trophy, unless you're Tottenham, because I guess
Well, in context, they lost 22 games. Ipswich were relegated and they'd lost 24. Bearing in mind, I know that obviously Spurs won a few more games than Ipswich did, but still, to only lose two less than
that's
someone who's been
crazy.
relegated. Um,
That's crazy.
I mean, we lost 18, so we're not here to brag or like boast, but in comparison, but it just went to show in the final that we've been so rested on, or I've been saying probably a bit hypocritical. I've been saying that Ange needs to learn how to adapt, and then in one breath I'm saying that, and the next breath I'm saying no. I appreciate Ruben Amorim's trying to rest on his laurels and really push this mentality. So it's probably a bit hypocritical on my part, but it just went to show in the final that all he had to do was adapt ever so slightly, and that pretty much won the game. Obviously, it wasn't. It's not a final
Mhm.
for the ages. It's not going to be talked about for a long, long time. It's not going to be one of those instant classes that you get repeated on the TV. It will get lost in the memory. Even Spurs fans aren't buying that DVD. Like they're not. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's not going to be
Yeah,
a highlight package for the ages. So
yeah.
um, let's talk about who was your player of the year, Bruno, by any chance, or did you have a different opinion?
Um,
Not that we had much options. Fred the Red, maybe, but
yeah, let's see who was out there. I think
so probably Ahmad,
I've got
Maguire, maybe.
I've got I've got Ahmad, Bruno, and Mazraoui.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think Mazraoui has been, firstly, always fit, and secondly, he's been put everywhere.
Mm,
He's been asked to play everywhere, and most of the time, I can say at least 65% of the time, he's been a 7 out of 10 performance. Solid, no frills. a little dribble here and there, good technical ability. So I think looking at a signing who cost us that little, I think that's how you get that sort of value back. To be honest, and I think most of the criticism came from him being a right wing back, which is not his natural position, but he still played it. But I don't think we can fault his centre back performances, his right centre back performances. I think mostly the goals were coming from the left centre back.
Yeah,
That guy was mostly having a mare this season, and sorry. And it's also easy to see Mazraoui is also better at reading space, back post, and he's super brave as well. So I think I think he definitely for consistency.
yeah,
I think he is one of the ones which I would have there. But of course, Captain Bruno, Roy Keane comes out and says, "Hey Bruno, you aren't a leader. You don't do anything. You're not what this club needs." And then every single day after that, he went on to pretty much provide a 8 out of 10 performance for the team, barring the final, of course.
yeah,
And I think, to be honest, that's all you can ask, right? We always have this thing about the legends criticizing our players, but I can imagine Bruno was probably sat back saying, "Uh-huh, okay, fair enough. That's fair. I can see that a little bit. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go prove you wrong.
yeah,
Tomorrow, I'm back on and I hear you. Let me watch some DVDs. Let me see what you're doing a little bit, and then I'll go." Because if you see how his game has shifted from a floating 10 to actually being really good in tight spaces, really good to release in tight spaces, he's playing a lot more combinations. I think he's definitely a lot more disciplined, and I think he's just done what the team has needed him to do as well, without complaining about positional change. If you notice, everyone's been complaining. Ganacho, oh no, I'm a winger.
mm,
Rashford, oh no, I'm a this. Everyone in the team has complained about some different, positional change that they've had to do. But when it's Bruno, he says, "All right, you need me to play deeper," and everyone says, "Oh, but his stats." And Bruno doesn't care. It's just a nature of his game. You can put him deeper, and he's still getting out of the pitch with an assist. So, it's at the end of the day, you just have to really look at him and say that's a special player. I was thinking into about it today, and I said that first injury is really gonna hit us hard because this is a gift from God.
yeah,
There's no way you play like that and you get that much connection. You are always in the heat of the battle. You don't twist your ankle once, like even just at home playing with your kids. You don't, you don't have a Dan Burn just planting his foot in your foot and then there's something. You don't have a niggle. You don't have a pull, a muscle pull, and you play every minute of every game, regardless if it's a dead rubber. If they need you, you're playing the game.
yeah,
And you also take the stress, the mental stress of captaincy, mental stress of the team doing badly, and you still don't pull up injured. For me, that is crazy. That is, I just feel he's unlucky. We should have been winning stuff. We should have had him when we were at the top of our game, because he deserves that. So I do think, looking at that, then I'll definitely give him that Player of the Year.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah. No, 100% agree. Yeah, there wasn't really any competition, but like you say, he showed up every time we needed him to, and in a team that was just starved of any talent or ability, he just shone every time. And
yeah.
obviously, there's still rumours circulating that he may be off to Saudi this year in the summer. We'll see. I personally think that he will stay, but I think he will want to stay. But if we get a big money offer of 100 million plus, I think it'd be so hard to not take for a player that's approaching like the early 30s. It's one of those things. I won't want him to go, but if he feels, I mean, nobody's turning down £65 million a year. You'd be stupid to. Um, So, in fairness,
Unless you're Bruno, to be fair.
do you think he's got that in him?
If
65, yeah.
Yeah, if there's one person that would be like, nah, I'm good, it would probably be Bruno. Like if you said Bruno, would you like immortality at Manchester United, or would you like 65 million a year or whatever, or per what? He's probably taking immortality at United with the context of we are doing this and we're doing that, and you're
Mm,
still the captain. I think he would take that a little more because he looks like a family guy. Like he's one of those guys who be like, uproot the family, gotta do this and all for money. I don't think he's that guy, but you never know,
I
right?
hope you're right.
Everyone has their number, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I hope you're right. I really do. Um, yeah, he's a special kind of player, and he's really brought us out of the shit the past few years. That's for sure. So, yeah, if he decides to go, I wouldn't blame him for that money. But like you say, fingers crossed. He's got that. He's made himself at home. But the idea of playing in Saudi Arabia, obviously the football's probably not great, but the weather's better, standard of living is better. I know Riyad Mahrez, him and his wife said it's the best thing they ever did moving
mm,
to Saudi. So there's an element of that.
mm,
So,
mm,
and if he really is a family man, it might come down to the fact that
mm,
if I can give my family a better way of living in Saudi Arabia, that might come
mm,
into it. You never know. Rumors circulating
mm,
today that Antonio Conte, the manager, he's on his way to Saudi. Inter Milan's manager, despite the Champions League final, apparently his missus has been spotted in Riyadh doing house viewings and stuff. So interesting. That might just be there buying a second home, but you never know. Um,
yeah.
let's talk very quickly. Let's talk about next season now. So if we're working on the basis that we're getting Cunha, Mbuemo, and maybe Delap, realistically, if that's not the only three sides, and say we make some more, what would you be happy with next season? So, me personally, I would say realistic top 10 and a decent cup run in all of the cup competitions. So, the League Cup and the FA Cup. I would like a final and like a decent run. And that would probably be just about enough for me because of the way this season's been horrendous. If we just have a steady season where we don't lose any big players, i.e., a Bruno, if he gets injured and misses a massive number of the season, that would be heartbreaking. I'm not expecting. I mean, Jonathan made a comment earlier, which I think he knows isn't quite ambitious, but United to click and finish second next season. Yeah, I would love that, but it's not beyond the realms of impossibility. I would say it's more or less impossible. But so yeah, realistically for me, a top 10, pushing on maybe like Europa Conference League, Europa League, maybe that would for me just be a good stepping stone going into the season after and so on. Malgub says they're around seventh. Yeah, that would be steady and sort of steady in the ship, getting us back into sort of where we want to be. It's just progression. With Ten Hag, we finished eighth, won an FA Cup, and now we're sitting 17th, 15th, sorry, with nothing. And obviously the season before that, we won the League Cup, finished fifth, won the FA Cup, finished eighth. Now we've won nothing and finished 15th. So we would take 2 steps forward and taken 8 steps back this year. But realistically, what would you be happy with as an ambition for next year?
Um, Funny, tough question.
Mm.
Um, Considering that the two sides of my brain are having a conversation, and the one side says, uh,
Win it all.
we are fifth. Well, there you go. So
Domestic treble.
you've got one saying that we're 15th, uh, meaning that statistically, if we want to have a sort of a Champions League season, we need to move up 10 places. Um, realistically, there's maybe 7 teams we can say that we can be better than by the end of the summer.
So West
So
Ham,
yeah,
Everton, Palace, Fulham,
it's Fulham.
Brentford, Bournemouth, Brighton.
Yeah, yeah, somewhere there. I say that by at some stage we should be, working with Brighton and those type of teams, and um, that for me would be a big improvement because also the players we're signing are players which are from that area of the table, right? We have to remember that we're not signing people that are going to propel us into something else. We're signing people that have been in small ponds and they've been doing really well there. So we're putting them in the United team for stability, mostly to build a very solid
Yeah,
Premier League team, right? But we're not yet into the all right, now we're signing a guy who's going to be a real needle mover when it comes to being better there because we actually don't have better players than Buemo and Cunha, but they're still within a certain position in the table,
yeah,
So when you bring them to a big club, then you have to also realize that how much of the 20 goals of Mbuemo are you getting, right? He's coming from a functional side built around him and Wisa. So what are we, so I think with all that being said, I do think, where did Brighton finish? Eighth, ninth,
yeah, yeah. Eighth.
eighth. Yeah. So again, it sounds like standards lowered, but it's just being very realistic in terms of um, what each everyone has shown us that they can do in the Premier League. So around eighth or ninth would be for me very realistic to say, all right, we should be better than or go band for band with those teams at the very least. And then once we start enhancing the squad, okay, maybe those teams don't have a Bruno, for example, right? So that's when you expect, all right, maybe we have that little more magic. So we could be seventh, somewhere around there. Um, but it's going to need so much work and a lot of good coaching. Like, I'm just hoping I think good improvement for me is going to be seeing if Amorim has sat back and said, fair enough, there's some things here that glaringly I need to fix. There is no shame in saying, "Oh, I changed this and that." We are now
Yeah,
in preseason. It's time to mess with a few things. I had an argument with my cousin. He was saying Amorim will never change, right? But I was like, you know what? If we get Buemo, if we get someone like Semenyo, and if we get Cunha, what could end up happening is for some games you could end up with almost a 4-3-3, Bruno with somebody, and then Cunha as the third in midfield, and then you could have Ahmad, you could have Buemo, and then the other side you could have a
yeah,
Semenyo, and then up top you could have a Zirkzee, or you could have a I don't know if you managed to sign a striker. So you could go a 4-3-3 because then, for example, you'd say Dalot has to play, and Dalot is not the winger option. He's not a right wing back. But if you've already put Mbuemo and Ahmad in a team, then you must say, okay, cool. Can we play a different way? Can we maybe line up in a quick 4-3-3 for a different type of game? So I'm just hoping that
like a
Amorim
League
has
Cup.
seen,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, that Amorim has seen that, okay, wait, it's different, right? Like there was that conversation. Does he know that the league is different? Has he felt that the league is different? And I think he actually just needs to go and look and say, yo, they outcoached the hell out of me. Almost every game, what happened? I mean, the
mm,
games minus individual errors, that's something that can be fixed there. But he has to really look at it and say, yo, what happened here? 15 minutes were good, and then my team gets outplayed for the rest of the game? Is it just physicality, or are other teams able to make a really quick tactical shift, which my team is not able to recognize? We can't always go into games thinking that. So I think that's going to be a big improvement for me if I can see that we're not entering games being the same team that's able to be read. um, the entire time, because I don't think there's any glory in that at all. So yeah, so seventh, improvement with the coaching, clear improvement, and a little bit of fear at Old Trafford. Let me see a little bit of fear at Old Trafford.
Mm.
I think that's the only way, right? Can't go away from home and just win games. You have to win games at home. People have to think like they're going to Old Trafford. So that's going to be an improvement if next season I see people saying, "Oh, we got Old Trafford next." That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah,
You know that
100%.
we haven't done that in a while.
No, could
So
not agree
yeah,
more.
yeah. So I think we. I think that's improvement for me. The cups, I'm not really fussed about. We've done well in the cups the last 3 seasons, so we should do well. League Cup is a short one. FA Cup, you get put in what, fourth round, fifth round, or something,
Hmm.
and we don't have European football, so we should have enough, right? And we should have enough time to work on the team. Um, so yeah, realistic, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a strange old season next year because obviously we've been so used to Thursday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And I said to Jonathan the other day, we're going to see a lot of 3 o'clock kickoffs on a
Mm.
Saturday afternoon where even the Old Trafford faithful will be like, "This is nice," you know.
Yeah.
We're back to the old routine, you know.
Exactly.
That's going to be good. Back to the building the Premier League up as it should be, and Saturdays at Old Trafford should be good. Yeah, I mean, we can only hope it can't get any worse. That's for sure. Cannot get any
No.
worse. It
Oh,
cannot.
oh, 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 it can.
Well, it can, yeah, but
It can.
fingers crossed. We with the players that we've got or looking at, like Brian Mbuemo, Cunha, that's two really good talents. So just fingers crossed. Kai, been absolute pleasure as absolute
Yeah.
always. Everyone that got involved
Thank
tonight,
you so
really
much.
appreciate you getting involved. Please like and subscribe, and share as much as you possibly can. And as you can see at the bottom, we are recruiting. So if you're interested in joining the team, just go over to our Twitter page /X and slide into our DMs, and one of us will get back to you and we'll get you involved. Absolutely. Kai, what are you up to at the minute? Where can we find you?
Yeah, you can just find me on X at Coach Kai underscore Kai over there. Yeah, I sometimes put in some funny comments, some coaching comments, coaching things as well. My team won the league, by the way. Just letting you know.
Ah, well done.
Um, 20
Good.
games played, 19 wins,
We'll
85
take that.
goals scored. We weren't playing around
Man,
the season, so
all gas,
we
no
got.
brakes.
Oh yes, we got promotion. So yeah, if you wanna come and find some funny stuff and just have some conversation, come find me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can find me at Nate Dales on Twitter as well. Don't post very often, but you're always welcome just to come and have a go at me if you don't agree with anything that I've said. Or, but most of all, just go over to @balls_pod. And yeah, Kai, absolute pleasure, mate, and look forward to seeing you again soon. And everyone that's watching, thank you very much indeed. Have a good evening.
Cheers.